Open for Business is presented by Globe My Business. Create your success.
We are open for business, and we are here with Ray Edward Solicito, the Chief Executive Officer of Kazar Innovations. Thank you for coming, Edward.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Okay. Before we continue with our conversation, Edward, I'd like to greet Rene Campagna and Dig. He's watching. Also, Maynel Sabado, watching from San Francisco, Quezon City, and MC Gerald C, watching from Quezon City, and of course Jojo watching with time. Okay, our topic, Edward, is transforming ideas to innovative businesses. As I mentioned, there's a lot of people who have great ideas, but in your case, where do you get those ideas in the first place?
Well, the ideation process, it has to come in naturally kasi. What I always say is, the typical answer is a problem-solution fit. If you see the problem, now you propose a solution. But I always say is, you have to have experienced that problem talaga. You have to have undergone that process for you to propose a good solution. So if it's not you who experienced it, how can you give your solution for that particular idea? And now, the ideation comes talaga naturally eh. So, lagi lang namin what we always say is, if you have an idea and it presents itself to you, now you have the responsibility to turn it into something that will affect other people or can create to be a viable business in the future.
That's a good insight.
Yep.
You said that you have to experience that specific problem so that you can create a solution. I'll use other examples. For example, our problem is traffic, so we have Grab, we have Angkas, we have what else? We have Lala Move. We have a lot of brands. In your case, and these are commonly societal problems or societal issues. In your case, what are the issues or problems that you have encountered so far, and what inspired you to come up with solutions for these problems?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about one of our startups. Now, the idea when we created that one is we have to have a prototype. It was a hardware startup. So you have to create a prototype out of it. We have to 3D print it in such a way. So the problem was, where do you go to 3D print your prototypes? So for the longest time, they always say that 3D printing will disrupt the Philippines. It will disrupt our manufacturing. But the problem is, where do you actually do your 3D printing nowadays? Some facilities may have it, but the problem, it's far and it's very rare that you come across it. There are some providers here in the Philippines, but the problem is their prices are so high that a typical student can't actually do it. So I was an engineering graduate, so that's an exact problem that I had during my undergrad.
So the problem really is, like, say, for example, you said 3D printing.
Yes.
So number one, the problem is that it's expensive.
Yes.
And who are normally the consumers of 3D printing, aside from students?
Well, of course, you can't understate lang the students. Kasi the idea is, we have a lot of some of the best architecture students, some of the best engineering students that does modeling. So that that sole target market is a sufficient market to run your business. But the second is some researchers actually do they need their 3D printing. Some medical practitioners as well for the some of the prosthetics that needs to be 3D printed. Architecture students, some have to manufacture their models in such an expensive way. Imagine if they can just send the 3D model and then have it printed right there and there. So the applications are nearly endless. But the thing is, it's not really available in the Philippines as of today. So during that time, I talked to one of my co-founders of Kazar Innovations. I told them, na it's time that we make 3D printing accessible to all Filipinos. And that was the idea when we created one of our startups.
I see. Okay. So that one, 3D printing
Yes.
is one problem. What are the other problems in your experience that you saw and then you felt that there was a need, for a specific solution?
Well, another thing is mobile applications.
Okay.
So a lot of us entrepreneurs who hoping to be entrepreneurs, we have this one idea na I have an idea for an app. That's the
Okay.
usual saying. I have an idea
Yes.
for an app. This will be the next Facebook. This
Okay.
will be the next Twitter. This will be the next Angkas. And the thing is, we're not coders. We're not programmers. So how do we actually do that? So when we were actually creating Kazar Innovations, we have the idea for Kazar is we have to have an ecosystem within the group that can support both hardware and software requirements. So with hardware, I told you we have a 3D printing startup. And with the software one, we have our own mobile applications team. So the problem, our problem with that one, usually when it comes to mobile applications, it's expensive and you don't have much control with your apps because most of the developers are part-time, they're doing it on the side. So on our team, we created an in-house, full-time mobile application software development team that can actually assess your needs. Or if you are a corporate client, we believe all corporate entities need a mobile app. We can create you for them. I'll give you an example with regards to that one. We can create your mobile application. If you have an idea or a corporate entity needs a mobile application, we can create your app from idea and launch it both for iOS and Android in 60 days. So we're actually one of the fastest in the country right now. The reason why we're very much respectful of the time is because time it's a fast changing world. You have to put your product in front of your consumers as fast as possible. Usual app development time, it takes around a year and a half, 2 years. Another company, another corporation, another startup would have been created that app for you. On our end, you just have to wait for 2 months and then automatically you have that mobile application. So that's one thing how we turn it into our own business as well, and how we are helping other entrepreneurs turn their ideas into their ventures as well.
Well, that's one. So that's two already.
Yes, yes.
So creating mobile applications to
Yes.
various clients. But part of that, as you mentioned, is the creation of a specific team, a dedicated
Yeah.
team. So, of course, in the Philippines, there's a lot of talent. So, is that a great contributor to creating a good startup, having a dedicated team to ensure that your vision, the technical vision and the business need of that specific application is met?
Yeah, well, definitely. The team, particularly in a startup with very much limited resources, you can't hire everyone. You have to be very much careful on who you are going to hire, particularly on a product that is very much different or unique. Because that's the selling point of a startup. It's very much innovative. No other company has it. We only have it. That's why we're making it. So it's very much important to have a strong set of individuals carrying that flag together with you. So what I always say is dedication should always come first. You can never part-time startups. That's what I always say. You can never part-time startups. Why? Because if you're doing it part-time, you're not giving 100%. Every time, like, there's only so much things that we can think of within the day. And if you're telling me that you can compartmentalize it, that you'll give 100% of each, it doesn't make sense. So if you have a team that can say to you, Edward, I'm gonna do full time on this. I believe in that idea. Please give me a shot to learn it, because I always say competence, skills, it can follow. It can definitely follow. But now, dedication should come first. If you see him dedicated, so you see someone without the competence, I'm gonna spend my overtime learning the things to actually do it. Like, to give you an example, we have one of our director of sales. See, she's actually an engineering graduate, but she makes it her responsibility as director of sales to actually know social media marketing, e-commerce, to give us the things that we need. As of today, we're one of the biggest communities in Facebook, bigger than some of the more established accelerators and incubators. That's what always comes first.
How do you measure how do you measure that community, the number of followers?
Yeah, the number of followers as well as the
You are
responses
now
that
at
we get.
how many?
We're at over 100,000. So
Wow,
that's a
congratulations.
good that's a big mass on any Facebook page, and we did that in just 5 months.
Wow,
We
congratulations.
launched our sales team was focused on our Facebook page on since September, October. And since then the growth was exponential, so we're very much happy and very much proud of that.
Congratulations. Okay. You said there are other ideas that you transformed into innovative businesses. So what are the other two?
Yeah, well, we have 4 startups under the Kazar Innovations banner. So I told about the 3D printing one. I told about the mobile applications one. We actually have another startup on educational toys. So what the idea for this brand is that we're gonna be shipping all of these things, transferring all of those toys available to the Western countries and the first world countries, and to send it here in Asia.
What was the problem there, Edward?
Yeah, the problem there was it's not really available here in the Philippines. Our children are very much in a disadvantage because they don't have those toys available. We have the funds to buy them the toys, of course, Filipino parents, like whatever.
What
whatever
are
we can-
these types of toys? Because there's, as far as I know, there's a lot of toys.
There's a lot of toys. So
What makes these toys very special that are not available here in the Philippines?
the thing is, the reason why educational toys is very much.
Oh, educational
It is
toys.
educational toys. It is
Okay.
educational. But the thing is, educational toys has been in the Philippines for a very long time. The idea for this brand is that the learning process is not the focus. It is technically part of the experience.
Okay.
Like, for example, some brands, they actually have it, like they package it, they create it with an intention that it's for education.
Okay.
And children gets bored easily.
Okay.
Because they know that those are the toys that they can see in school, and it's task, it's a problem. I don't want to play it. It's those kinds of toys that you just buy it for one afternoon and tomorrow the kids won't play it anymore.
Correct.
So our idea for this brand is that it will go secondary. So you're playing with our toys. Particularly, one of our toys is a 3D printing pen. And with that 3D printing pen, they only know that they're creating 3D models in themselves, but they don't know that they're actually learning about 3D printing.
I see.
The complexity of 3D printing, a 6-year-old Filipino can actually learn about it. Imagine a setup in a school like, okay, we're gonna discuss 3D printing today. Ma'am, that's exactly what I have in my house. I have that toy. So I have an idea. And we believe that will be a catalyst in creating more creative, more innovative individuals in the future. Because we know we have the buying power. Like, we have the buying power. The Filipino parents would support the learning process of their kids. But the problem is the toys are just for playing. So we make it a point, we research all of those innovative tech so that we can bring it here in Asia, and we can have the advantage that the same people from the West are having.
So when you say bring it here in the Philippines, Edward, are you saying you are importing them, or you got this technology from them and you create these educational toys in the Philippines?
That's exactly it. So we are redesigning it for the Asian market, particularly now for the Filipinos. The problem is the technologies are available in the West, but if we just import it here, the prices are definitely not accessible. It's
Yes.
gonna be so expensive. So we
That's
know
right.
that some people are shipping it here, but it's so expensive. Not a lot of Filipinos would take advantage of it. So what we do is we redesign it so that we can lower down the cost, so that we can allow a lot of individuals to actually enjoy it. And as of today, some of our products are some of the most inexpensive learning toys in the market today.
I see. And the final solution or the final problem that you so far
Have within the group.
yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
the last one is on sustainability. So we created one of the first and only sustainability ratings platform in the market. So
That's very interesting because
Yes.
earlier I was talking about SDGs.
Yes,
diba?
yes.
So when you say SDGs, you have to have you spend just $1 and we will be able to
for the
achieve
cost for this so much impact.
But when
yeah.
you talk about sustainability, that's huge.
Yes.
Right? There's sustainable tourism, there's
Yes.
sustainable education, a lot of things in sustainability. In your case, which is I think I personally support, what specific part of sustainability or sustainability problem are you trying to address?
Yeah, for this one, this is in sustainable tourism. So what we created is again a sustainability ratings platform. It's technically like a trip advisor for sustainability. For the longest time, sustainability has been a buzzword.
Yes.
Like it's a buzzword, sustainable. But the problem is, like one hotel will say we're sustainable, another hotel will say we're sustainable. No, we're much more sustainable than you are.
Correct.
The problem is there's no standard metrics to actually figure it out.
Correct.
So
although there are very very specific, like the one I reported,
Yes.
a reporting system, like say, even with some companies, they measure their greenhouse gas emissions,
yes.
their carbon emissions. There are metrics on that. But in your case, I'm very interested.
Yeah,
How do you measure sustainability in your case?
Yeah, with the problem with those are technically that's going into the problem. The problem is it's not actually something that a layman can understand.
Correct.
Like we are here, like we're doing all of the reporters are doing a great job actually condensing it, so that a lot of Filipinos, a lot of common people can actually know about it, understand it. But it's not condensed in such a way that a layman can just go into an application, a mobile application,
Yes.
and see how sustainable their favorite hotels and restaurants are.
Yes.
So what we have there is we created an algorithm. We created an algorithm to compute for sustainability. We've partnered with the Asian Institute of Management here, the Center for Tourism, and what we did with them is that we created it in such a way that it can be built up in the future to accommodate a lot of factors, but for the meantime, we have three. First is the food source network. The closer your food source is, the hotels and restaurants, is to the community, the higher your score. Because we want these hotels and restaurants to actually source locally.
Okay, that's good.
The second one,
that's
that's
food
the first
source.
one. Yeah, so
so
we
the
have three.
closer your food source is, the better, or the higher your
Higher your
sustainable
rating. Yeah.
Because basically you provide income for the people
Yes,
who
within the vicinity.
Okay.
So the second one is manpower proximity.
Okay.
It's the same thing, encouraging these establishments to actually hire within their immediate community.
Okay.
The last one, of course, customer experience. Now, what you're saying, because they always thought that sustainable establishments are boring, that these are the things that just focus on sustainability, they're not much focused on the experience. We have it at the same time so that the consumers can know that it doesn't have to be sacrificed. It goes hand in hand with the sustainability metrics that we have.
That's good. And I just would like to add, because when you say the third is customer service,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Because according to because I attended the Sustainable Tourism forum, which was conducted by Globe My Business, and then and Mr. Ernest Gu of Globe said, our customer service, the Philippine customer service, is not even at par with the world, but we have the best customer service because of the hospitality of Filipinos. So when you now measure customer service, how do you do it?
So we do it in the same metrics that other travel apps have, but we put in a certain sense that we have it designed in the user interface that it goes hand in hand with the sustainability, so that it doesn't like it would have in the same level feed, because we want to feel in that same application that for the first time, sustainability is the equalizer of all of these establishments. So it's the same metrics that we have with the other applications, just that it has to go side by side with sustainability.
Very interesting. Okay, these are a lot of ideas already. The first, you said we really have to come up with to somehow experience that specific problem and create those specific solutions. When open for business returns, we will actually ask you, now that you have an idea, what's the next step?
Yeah.
What would you do to ensure that you transform them into a specific business? Because that's the problem of a lot of would-be entrepreneurs. Sometimes they have, the idea is just there. It's stuck on their minds, but how do you, where do you find that launch pad to really create a profitable business out of idea? Yes. This is a very exciting discussion with Edward, the CEO of Kazar Innovations. Open for Business will return. Stay with us. Open for Business is back, and still with me is the Chief Executive Officer of Kazar Innovations, Edward Solicito. Edward,
yes.
So now we go to the next phase, which is you have that idea, and what are the steps now that you make to launch it into a business?
Yeah, the first one is, of course, you ideate. Like, I'd never underestimate that part, because a lot of companies spend millions to get that idea.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is technically very much hard. Now, once you have that idea, the first thing you should do is to do your homework and research.
Okay.
First is someone might be doing the same thing.
Exactly.
That's the first.
Exactly.
That's the first
like
thing.
It's like writing a novel. Akala mo, you are the first one who had
Got
that
the
idea.
idea, yeah.
But in actuality, when you do your research, it has been written already.
Yes. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
Because the novelty and the uniqueness of your idea would translate a lot into your valuation as a company and your success in the future.
Okay.
So just do it. Like, there are a lot of people in the world. It's not technically hard to think that someone have that same idea and has acted upon it. So that's the first thing. Do your research. We're in the date of time that you can Google everything and you can actually see it. So the first thing is do your research.
Okay.
Find some things. If you can convince yourself that it is very much different, and then you can convince some of your peers that it's very much different. Now you can actually go to the next stage. Again,
So all these 4 ideas
Yes.
that you have initially thought of are unique ideas.
No, it's not like it doesn't have to be so much unique. It has to be unique in such a way that it would cater to the market in a
your
different
locality.
matter, either in your locality, like
Okay.
for a specific area, or for your specific consumer base, or what you call the niche market.
I see. So it is possible that your idea is similar to the others,
Yes.
but for you to serve that specific market, you're good.
Yeah, particularly
Okay.
for example for cost, it varies. Like some of the tech companies if you make it more affordable here, then it's technically a viable business.
That's
It
right.
doesn't to be that much unique. But the thing is, you have to accept that fact that your idea may not be unique.
Yes.
And the next step is how can I build it so that it can have a different spin into it and addresses the exact requirements that my intended market has.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so that's technically the first one.
Okay.
So once you've done that research, now you can start building your first drafts of your idea. You have to have a wish list on how it's gonna look like. You don't have to think about the expenses. You don't have to think about anything. This is what my product should look like in the future.
Okay.
So that you have a roadmap and you have a goal on what you're targeting.
Okay.
So you just see it. If you think, so again, there is always a version in this that you would just throw that idea and then you ideate again. So in this particular part, what you should do is that end goal big enough to actually sustain, and is it gonna be worth my time? Because if the end goal is just something that another person can jump into with a lot of cash, of course, buying capital is very much important into a business, of course. Is if it's not worth your time, then might as well get another idea or create another idea. So that's the second thing. So if you believe that no, it's gonna change people's lives, it's gonna create a viable business, it's gonna make me into something that I really want to be part of, then you go for it. So that's technically the next step. You're now in a point that you now know what you are targeting. You now know what the narrative, what the end part of your narrative is. Now you can start laying down laying down the steps and the activities to actually achieve it. Of course, things will change. Things will change a year from now. In the process that you are creating the business, but to have that end goal, so that you have a metrics, something to bank in on and compare it. Like how my idea, of course, years from now. So the question is, how is my idea different from now and 2 years before? So those are the things that you will encounter being an entrepreneur.
But in your case, has there been I think your term in startups is pivot.
Yeah.
How many times were you able to do this pivot?
Well, there were pivots can go. It's very much vague. It can go to a pivot that actually disrupts your own business model, like starting from scratch, or you can go from a pivot. You can call it a pivot if you just targeted a different market, or if you provided a different service with the same requirements that you already requirements and equipment that you already bought, the resources that you have. So it very much varies. But to answer your question, pivot is definitely part of the startup process, and the reason why I always tell that you have to have that end goal first, to have that that plan, that target that you have, is so that you can actually present it side by side and you can see where it changed. Because you don't want to be in a startup that just goes with the flow, like we just do it every day. As long as we're getting money, we'll get there. That won't go you anywhere. As far as you know, you're not getting anywhere. You're just putting one, because 1 plus 1 and 2, that's progress already. 2 plus 1 is 3. That's not the progress that you want as a startup, but you can consider it as progress. So if you have an end goal in mind, that's gonna be that's gonna be the differentiator, and that goes hand in hand with the next part. The next part is you have to find supporters of your idea.
Okay, this is very interesting now, because okay, you have finally decided that okay, this works, and this is original, or it's not original, but it caters to a specific market that I have.
Yes.
Correct. Now, how do you get support? When you say support, it could be forming a team, or forming your getting
investors or supporters and incubators. So again,
okay,
that this is the part where the part on the narrative goes.
Okay.
Because you convince your supporters. How? You tell them the story of the future you are building towards too.
Okay.
You get them excited. You paint them a picture of where you're going right now. Like 2 years from now, our goal with this startup is to make 3D printing accessible to all Filipinos.
Okay.
Imagine that goal. If that's your goal, then the Philippines, it makes sense. 3D printing should be accessible. Like our idea is we're gonna create an ecosystem of mobile application that is very much fast and efficient, so that a lot of entrepreneurs can be technopreneurs and launch their businesses faster. So that is the narrative that you spend a lot on the first part. That's the story that you will be telling your would-be supporters, your teammates, and your investors. So for your teammates, it's very much intimate. The idea is you have to convince them that it's something worth their time as well.
Yes.
Because time is worth different to each people. Some people may consider their time as it's just doing it. Some people consider time very valuable.
Correct.
So it has to be very much intimate. Explain to them what their particular skill set would mean to this particular narrative. The question is, would you want to be part of the team that would create this end goal? That's if they say yes, and then the question again is, would you go full time for this? Do you really? Okay, so now you want to be part of my team now. How do you prove that you really want to be part of that narrative? Would you go full time for this much of salary? Because we can spend a lot of now there's negotiations for salary, those compensations come in. But of course, if they're willing to bet on you because they have that narrative in mind, then you have a very strong team now. Okay. Because now you're looking at that end goal. Like you're not thinking of a different end goal for you. You're just thinking that this is the goal we're thinking. I have to make sure that every day I come into the office, we're moving closer to that goal.
Okay.
So now for the investors part.
Okay. Which is the most crucial part. Because with your teammates, it could be your friends, your classmates, even your family.
Yes.
And the narrative is clear. And because, of course, I interviewed a lot of startups also, and they started with their families, with their friends, with their classmates. But what was difficult was really getting funding from investors. So how did you do it?
No, with our idea is we came into a realization that when you are offering your business, like for funding, for support, you have to present it, and you have to see your business, its value as it is now.
Okay.
Because a lot of startups, when they have this narrative that this idea will change the world, they always come to that conclusion to evaluate it in the future value of the company. Even though, of course, it is part of the valuation, the scalability of the business. That's very much theoretical. It would depend on the activities that you will be doing. It depends on the decisions that you will be doing day to day. So what I always say to the entrepreneurs, like I come across to, when they're selling, they always ask me, Edward, you have it seems to me that Kazar Innovation is really fast in securing investments. How do you do it? Like like you just secured another funding. How do you do it? Well, I always say is you have to come into a realization that your idea has value, but the investors' capital has value as well.
Because they will expect returns from that.
One is they're expecting returns about that, of course. But the thing is, technically, it is the best conversion of, or it's the best representation of their trust to you as a proprietor. Because they give their money to actually do your product, to do your services.
And for you to gain their trust, they would believe in that product.
Yes, that's technically the best representation. Like, would you rather, like, some individuals would just be like, we're here for you, we're gonna support you all throughout. But there's this guy that will say to you, I trust you enough, I'm gonna give this amount of funding for you, spend it so that you can attain that narrative, you can reach that goal. Your investors are some of your strongest supporters. That's what I always tell my entrepreneurs. And now, you're coming to a point that you're trying to get them. So you have to value your company as it is, how they're gonna see it. If you send, like, if you don't have, because entrepreneurs have a certain attachment to their ideas. When they see their proposal, it seems like they're changing the world. But if it's come, but if it's come,
like they wanted to be Mark Zuckerberg.
They're gonna be the Bill Gates. They're gonna be the Steve Jobs overnight.
So what you're saying, Edward, is be realistic as to the value of your product or your company now.
Now, like as of today, how much is its value, its assets, its proprietary ideas, its designs, and its manpower? You have to value it at that price because. Investors, there are a lot of investors in the Philippines, and they understand that it is a business, there are risks, and they understand that what they are, they won't undersell it, they won't value it so low that you won't operate profitability. They just want to know that they're getting a value of their money. So if you give them a valuation that is a part to their expectations as well as the activities that you will be doing, then you won't have a problem getting investors.
Is there a circle of investors? Do you go to angel list? Where do you source the investors whom you offer your specific products and services?
The first one is, of course, the closer family and friends, of your colleagues, your mentors, particularly your mentors. Because these are the people that, of course, your mentor are giving you the impulse to improve your business. If you really believe that, like you can tell your mentor, like if you really believe that I'm going somewhere, might as well help me find investors and get me funding for this. So those are the easiest one. Of course, the family and friends are another thing because they would really want to support you. Again, if you've done your research and you've done the narrative, you have a lot of information that would convince them otherwise.
So, like for example, in your case, I know you have a good background with the Asian Institute of Management, and you registered your company in Singapore rather than the Philippines. What is basically your environment, your support system as far as investors are concerned?
Well, starting last year, once we graduated, we already had a group of investors. So our mentors, some of the professors from the AIM already invested. So that was sufficient enough.
Again, it's not usual, that you have that, correct?
Yeah. Well, the other people are some of the parents and some of the folks that I have. Actually, it was a parent of one of my classmates. So what he did is because they believe in our research, that we've done our due diligences, that we have a support group running it, that we have an actual plan, they actually put in the money. And it wasn't that expensive. We started Kazar Innovations with just 100,000 pesos.
Wow. Okay.
So that was the first pool. It wasn't valued at so high. And then it's just enough to you always, with valuation, you just have to get the funding you need to get to another hurdle.
Yes.
As of today, we've raised around 16 million pesos for the whole group, and that allowed us to scale to get the equipments that we need to provide some of the best services in the market today. So it goes from, as of today, we started with what? We started with 2 investors, and then we had 8. As of today, we have around 120 Filipino investors within Kazar Innovation.
And that's only in the Philippines.
Yes,
So
yes.
what's your roadmap? Do you also, before you answer that, I'd
Yes.
like to greet Vicky Manabo. They're watching. Well, also watching from Taiwan, Miss Melanie Cornejo, Miss Maurice Aliven, and Madame Girly Valles. Solicito.
That's my mom.
My
my mom's
mom.
watching. Yeah.
Okay.
So-
What's your game plan? Do you plan to get investors also outside the Philippines?
Yeah, so as you said, like we incorporated our startups, most of our startups in Singapore because it is an booming ecosystem. That being said, we're also incorporated here in the Philippines.
I see.
So that's the reason why we were able to operate. Now, the end goal for Kazar is we want to be
Oh, I guess that the co-chair of the ease of doing business in paying taxes, Mon Abrea, and because of the high corporate taxes here in the Philippines, that's one reason why they don't register here in the Philippines,
Yes.
but in Singapore. Is that also your reason why you
First
do that?
is it's so fast to incorporate in Singapore, but mostly because we've been in Singapore a couple of times now, the ecosystem there is booming and so much supportive
Of startups.
of startups that you'll learn and you'll get this wisdom just by being there.
Agree.
That's why I love Singapore. So our end goal now is to actually raise our series funding of all of our startups in Singapore because we are incorporated there. But with all Filipino, because we have all Filipino investors, now the valuation shoots up. And then all of our Filipino investors are happy because their assets are increased in value. That's
Correct.
the end goal.
Interesting. Now, so after getting all these investors,
Yes.
what are the things that you should do? Because the next step, I guess, is scaling up.
Yes.
So because they have already given you investments, you have about 5 minutes.
Yes.
So what would you do now to scale the business after all the investors have placed their money, their resources to you? What are the things that you have to do to ensure that at the end of the day, what you have promised the
Yes.
investors would be delivered back to them?
Well, the thing is, you have to create a timeline. That's basically it. You have to create a timeline in such a point that one, they're expecting their returns. Two, when do you see your end goal happening? You have to build that timeline. And so once you've put in the dates, the exact time period that you're expecting to do those activities, the next step is to never miss a deadline. You have to follow it to the letter. Because once you miss one date, why bother putting in the date? So now the idea is when you are following that step by step, those timelines, now every day you're getting value. To put it in a perspective of day to day, you should always tell your team that you know your salaries. You know how much our expenses is with this renting this office. Are we sure that we're creating sufficient value every day to build towards that future valuation? So that's it. You just follow in your plan. Basically, that's it. Just follow in your plan to the letter, making sure that you hit it every single day.
Okay, Edward. In a few minutes, what's next for Kazar Innovations? We know that you're doing a lot of milestones
Yes.
already, and what is next for Edward and for the company? And after that, what are your tips to entrepreneurs, especially the young ones who would also wish to be in your position? Very young but very dynamic, energetic, and full of vibe to really go into and develop this kind of this brand of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, with Kazar Innovations, the closest one that we can disclose as of today, of course, some we can't actually say, is we're gonna have our rollout for our 3D printing kiosks.
Okay.
Imagine a future in the Philippines wherein a student or an innovator can just bring the USB with the design of his prototype to any SM, to any Ayala Mall, to any Robinsons, put it, submit it to our kiosk, and then return 2 days, and then they have their prototype. That's the future that we are building towards to with our 3D printing startup. You can expect it within the year.
Perfect.
Okay, so with regards to the innovators out there, to the budding those people who wants to enter the startup community, my message is this is the perfect time. there isn't technically a better time to be a technopreneur in the Philippines as of today. We have the funding, the investors are waiting to support you. We have accelerators, incubators, we have corporations. And of course, we have companies like Kazar Innovations who are just waiting for you to present your ideas and then to give the necessary support. If you have an idea, again, this is what I said in the beginning, it's a full circle. If you have an idea and you really believe that it's something worth your time and it's something that's going to change people's lives, it is your responsibility. It is your obligation to turn it into a reality.
Okay, but before we end the interview, Edward, again, I'd ask. I forgot to ask this.
Yeah.
What are your struggles? You know, what were the things that made you sleepless? I'm sure. I know you set up this one
Yeah.
with friends, but with a lot of hurdles as well. What should new entrepreneurs be really for the lookout for as far as problems, challenges, and how should they overcome these challenges?
Well, one is definitely finances. There was this time in Kazar Innovations life that we only have 12,000 pesos in the bank. We wouldn't be able to give a salary to even one employee. My CFO was very much in agony that whole week, that he didn't know what to do, but he didn't say it to me because we were expecting another round of funding. But the reason why because in Kazar Innovations we never went under. The reason why we're able to do that is we have a dedicated team making sure that our expenses are always in check. In a startup, once you get the funding, it is very easy to spend. A lot of like Western startups, we have the stories of them spending a lot of money
yeah.
for extravagant equipment, for extravagant market researches, and it's very much easy to fall into that trap. What to actually to answer that, to have a solution to that problem, you just have to have someone making sure that you'll never go under, and that he or she will be controlling your expenses and telling you that this is outside our budget, we can do it again. If you have that one team that's very much important to your team, you'll be very much safe.
Perfect. Your last words for the entrepreneurs?
Yeah, again, start. What we always say is you have to start small and scale up. But the very much important to that one is start. Your idea won't go anywhere if you won't have the tenacity to start it, to put it in front of other people, to test it and research on it. If you have an idea, push for it. You have companies like Kazar Innovations just waiting to support you.
Wow, that's it. On that note, we'd like to thank Edward, and I hope he'll again be back here in Open for Business to share with us the milestones and successes of Kazar Innovations in the coming months. Don't go, because our term of the week and our quote for the week when Open for Business returns. Thank you, Edward.
Thank you very much.
For
Thank you very much.
gracing the show. In our term of the week, you take a refresher of business terms to make you updated, more informed, and ready to make smarter business decisions. Our term of the week is app development. App development refers to the creation of computer applications for use on mobile devices such as tablets, smartphones, and smartwatches. Mobile device features such as cameras, motion, and location awareness can be used to create unique and inventive mobile-only applications. Mobile devices typically have popular apps for searching, browsing, and social media pre-installed, and users can download and install additional apps from Google Play, Android, and the Apple App Store, iOS. Mobile applications are designed and built for different operating systems. And our quote of the week is from Anthony Volodkin, founder of Hype Making. He said, "Be undeniably good. No social marketing effort or social media buzzword can be a substitute for that. Join us again next Saturday, 5 p.m. Philippine time, for another episode of Open for Business, where we discuss business information, deliver the latest business news to keep you informed and open for business and be ahead of the curve from vision to action. You're on Facebook Live on Eagle News, and you can watch us again in the video section of the Eagle News Facebook page and on eaglenewslive.com. Also visit postinglive.com for news and updates on Open for Business. Catch me every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on Net25's Eagle News International as I report more business news here and around the world. For Open for Business, this is Cesar Vallejos. Have a great day.
Open for Business was presented by Eagle Broadcasting Corporation and Globe My Business. Create your success.